Hello, everybody. My name is Brad Walsh. I am the host, creator, and producer of the Empowerography podcast, a platform that was created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. I have published over 650 episodes, and my podcast, the Empowerography podcast, is globally rated in the top 2%. Welcome, everyone, to episode 7 of Beyond the Mic, my Beyond the Mic series created to help educate, provide tips and tricks for those starting their podcasts or those wanting to be better guests on podcasts. The focus of today's episode, I'm going to talk about time management and batch recording. Now, this is something that I've personally just shifted in my podcast to be a little more efficient and smarter around recording my podcast episodes, and that is batch recording. So, batch recording, in my definition, is picking a particular day or time that you are going to record multiple episodes in order to free up time throughout the week for other things. So, for me, I was previously, this is something that I struggled with a lot. I'm going to be very vulnerable and open and honest here. I struggled a lot with getting caught up in the interviews and staying stuck in that comfort zone of mine of interviewing. I used to interview every Tuesday and Thursday. I would do 2 interviews on Tuesdays and 2 on Thursdays. I then ended up getting to a point where I was interviewing Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays because I couldn't say no to doing other interviews. If someone couldn't make it, I would reschedule on a day that I wouldn't normally schedule. Or if I had to reschedule an interview with someone, if I had to ask someone to reschedule, I would do that on a day that I don't normally record, which would be Monday or Wednesday. I would always, always, always keep Fridays free. I would not do any recording on Fridays. And so it got to a point for me where I was horrible at managing my time with the podcast. And it's something that I still struggle with. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, but I feel that I've improved and gotten better after a lot of self reflection over the last 6 months of 2024, and I decided that I have to change up my recording and therefore switch to batch recording. So now I record 3 episodes 1 day a week, which is typically on a Wednesday. I'll record 3 interviews. So batch recording is a huge, massive time saver. It saves you so much time. If you dedicate or block off 1 day in your calendar to record 1 interview, 2 interviews, 3 interviews, whatever it is, 4 interviews. I wouldn't go any more than recording 4 a day personally, but that's just me. I record 3 interviews on that 1 day. That frees up the other 4 days for me to edit my podcast for episode release, also focus on monetization for my podcast and other things around the business side of the podcast. That's what that does. It frees up time for you to put your time and energy elsewhere, so that you're not scattering yourself or spreading yourself too thin throughout the week by recording multiple interviews on 1 day, on another day. And then you could, like I did, fall into the trap of rescheduling on those other off days, therefore, then taking up the rest of your week doing interviews. And then what happened to me when I was doing that, I ended up with a huge backlog of content. Now, some would say that's a great problem to have. And yeah, it is. But for me, it overwhelmed me. And I got to the point where I had about 60 episodes in the bank, ready to go, ready to produce. I still had to edit and produce all those episodes. So it overwhelmed me. And that overwhelm leads to inaction and not getting the shit done that you need to get done. So I would suggest, and this is what I found has been incredibly helpful, is batch recording. It has changed up the whole entire game for me. I now have that 1 day to do my interviews. It gives me time, more time to prep my questions. My show is an interview type show, so I prep individual questions for each one of my guests. So that frees up also time for me to prep do interview prep for my guests, prep their questions, get them sent out, create the links for the episodes. There's a lot of moving pieces around doing interviews as well. So for me, batch recording was a massive shift in my energy and helped me so much. I also want to talk about, since we're talking about time management, My whole editing process. This again is another lesson I had to learn, and I'm sharing these things, these lessons that I learned, so that maybe for you, you can get ahead of the game and don't have to learn these lessons the hard way. My editing, I was spending 2+ hours editing a 1 hour episode because I was being very anal about it, removing all the little things, all the little nuances that I didn't like hearing. And it got to a point where I was spending so much time editing, that's all I felt like I was doing. In turn, also with all those episodes, with that bank of episodes, I had 60 episodes. I did that to myself 2 years in a row before I finally learned the lesson. I was editing constantly. I felt like that was all I was doing. I have a tool now that I use for editing, and I've been using it for a while. It's called Descript, and it is a game changer. It saved my life as an editor. It saved me so much time. And even still, that brought it down to 2+ hours, and that saved me time. But I've now even brought that down even more because I don't want to spend all my time editing. So what I do now is I run it through Descript. I remove the filler words. There's a feature to remove the filler words. There's also a feature to remove word gaps. And that's all I do for my editing. I run it through. I enhance the sound a little bit to produce it a bit more to make it sound better. And then I publish it. I'm not so anal about removing every little thing that gets to me as a producer or as an editor or as a podcast host. So I have freed up so much time for myself to focus on other things that I want to do, other things around the podcast monetization, producing commercials for my podcast, working on coaching programs for my podcast. It will free up so much time for you if you make those two little shifts, batch recording and shifting up how you edit podcasts. It is a game changer, especially the batch interviewing. That was a huge shift for me. I love it. I love that I get to delve into those conversations on one day. I have multiple conversations. It's such a game changer. It is. I cannot stress how amazing it is. So if you are looking to start your podcast, don't go through what I went through and the painstaking process. Do batch recording. It will save you so much time and it will open up your calendar on the other days to focus on other things. If you are a podcaster and you're doing the podcast on the side, you have a business that you run, it'll free up time to run your business better, more efficiently, and you'll run your podcast more efficiently. So I highly suggest take my advice, batch recording. In terms of editing, I would look at Descript. If you don't know anything about, or if you're not aware of Descript, look into it. It's an amazing tool and it will save you so much time in the post-production process, which again, that's what it's all about, is saving yourself time so that you can focus on the more important things around your podcast. If it's your business, if that's your full-time gig, you can focus more of your time and your energy on monetization and creating programs to sell through your podcast. Because there's a lot of moving pieces to podcasting. So I highly suggest batch recording and looking at Descript as an editing tool. It will save you so much time. Time is of the essence. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope it resonated. I hope it made sense. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to have a conversation. I will put my links for booking in to have a one-to-one call with me. We can talk about podcast strategies, how to get your podcast off the ground. I also have a link that I will post for my new program that I'll be releasing. I have a wait list right now. It's called Start Your Own Podcast from Idea to Implementation in 90 Days or Less. I'll put the link in there. If you do click, I highly suggest you click. If you are looking to start your own podcast, click the link, put your name on the wait list. You'll get $200 off the program by doing so, and I'll throw in a bonus for you as well. So it would be of value to you to put your name on the wait list. Thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I will be doing another episode of Beyond the Mic, episode number 8, where I am going to discuss overcoming imposter syndrome as a podcaster, which is something that I had to deal with as well. So we'll delve into that on Thursday. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you found this information valuable and helpful, and we'll see you for the next episode on Thursday. Thanks very much.